Let's start with European ancestry, not a MENA. And we're talking about people whose ancestors come from Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. So here's the deal. If your ancestors lived in Northern Europe, there's about a 90% chance you can drink milk as an adult without your stomach staging a full-on rebellion. This is called lactase persistence, and it's actually a genetic advantage that only evolved in the last 10,000 years. Most humans naturally lose the ability to digest lactose after childhood, but when some populations started farming cattle, the people who could keep drinking milk into adulthood got extra calories and survived better. Natural selection said, yeah, we're keeping this mutation. Now here's where it gets wild. Your ancestors also adapted their skin tone like a vitamin D factory. Lighter skin in low sunlight areas meant better vitamin D production, which keeps your bones strong and your immune system happy. It's not about being better, it's about being perfectly calibrated to the amount of UV light bouncing around Northern Europe. Meanwhile, folks from the Middle East and North Africa hit that sweet spot of having enough melanin to protect against intense sun, while still making vitamin D efficiently. And get this, if you've got ancestry from the Mediterranean region, you might carry genes that make you more resistant to certain parasites that were common there. Your ancestors literally evolved their immune systems to fight off specific local diseases. Now, let's talk about African ancestry, arguably the most genetically diverse group on the planet because, fun fact, Africa is where all humans come from. Humanity lived there way longer than anywhere else, so there's been more time for genetic diversity to build up. First up, melanin. We're not just talking about skin tone. Melanin is like biological sunscreen that absorbs and dissipates UV radiation before it can damage your DNA. People with African ancestry have more eumelanin, which means better protection against skin cancer and slower skin aging. While everyone's worried about wrinkles, melanin-rich skin is out here looking younger for longer. There's literally science showing that more melanin means fewer wrinkles and better skin elasticity as you age. But here's the really cool part. Sickle cell trait. Now, having 2 copies of the sickle cell gene causes sickle cell disease, which is serious. But, and this is huge, having just 1 copy gives you significant resistance to malaria. In regions where malaria was a major killer, this gene became common because it literally saved lives. It's a perfect example of evolution making trade-offs. The gene persisted because the protection it offered outweighed the risks in malaria-heavy regions. There's also evidence that people with African ancestry may have genetic advantages for fast-twitch muscle fiber composition, which is why you see such incredible representation in sprinting sports. However, some studies explore population differences in muscle genetics, but athletic performance is shaped heavily by training, culture, environment, and individual variation. And heat tolerance? Some people with recent African ancestry often have more efficient sweating mechanisms and better heat dissipation, basically a built-in cooling system optimized for hot climates, though individual variation is large. Your ancestors evolved in the heat, so your body knows how to handle it. Moving to East Asian ancestry, buckle up because this gets fascinating. There's this gene called EDAR, and a specific variant of it became super common in East Asian populations. This single gene affects hair thickness, tooth shape, sweat gland density, and even earwax type. If you have East Asian ancestry, you probably have thicker hair strands, literally about 30% thicker than people of European or African ancestry. You might also have shovel-shaped incisors and drier earwax, all from one gene variant. Scientists think this might have been selected because it improved survival in cold climates by changing how sweat glands work. Now, here's something wild about alcohol. Many people with East Asian ancestry have a version of the ALDH2 gene that makes them flush bright red when drinking alcohol. This is often called Asian flush. And while it might seem like a disadvantage, it's actually protective. People with this gene variant are significantly less likely to become alcoholics because drinking feels terrible. Your body is literally warning you off alcohol. It's like a built-in alcohol deterrent system. There are also genetic adaptations related to diet. Some East Asian populations evolved better ability to metabolize foods rich in carbohydrates, particularly rice. We're talking about specific gene variants that affect how efficiently your body processes starch. And here's a newer discovery. Some populations in East Asia have genetic variants that may provide advantages in processing vegetable-based proteins and nutrients, which makes total sense given the traditional diets of these regions. South Asian ancestry is incredibly diverse genetically. We're talking about a region with thousands of ethnic groups and tons of genetic variation. Some South Asian populations, particularly in northern regions, developed lactose tolerance independently from Europeans. Different mutation, same superpower. This evolved in pastoral communities who relied heavily on dairy. But here's something really cool. Certain South Asian populations have genetic adaptations for metabolizing vegetarian diets. There are gene variants that help convert plant-based omega-3s, or ALA, into the forms your brain needs, DHA and EPA, more efficiently. If your ancestors were vegetarian for generations, your genes might have adapted to make the most of plant-based nutrition. In mountainous regions like Nepal and Tibet, some populations developed genetic advantages for high-altitude living, though Tibetan adaptations are particularly strong. We're talking about genes that affect how your body uses oxygen when there's less of it in the air. The EGLN1 and EPAS1 genes help regulate red blood cell production so you don't overproduce them at altitude, which can make your blood too thick. American Indian, Alaskan Native ancestry. These populations represent some of the most dramatic human adaptations to extreme environments. First, cold adaptation. Alaska Native populations have genetic variants that affect how their bodies generate and conserve heat. We're talking about genes that influence metabolism, fat distribution, and even blood flow to extremities. The Inuit people, for example, have genetic adaptations that help them thrive on high-fat, high-protein diets in Arctic conditions. Specific gene variants help them process omega-3 fatty acids and maintain healthy cholesterol levels despite a diet that would be risky for other populations. For indigenous peoples of the high Andes Mountains in South America, there's a completely different set of high-altitude adaptations than what evolved in Tibet. Andean populations have larger lung capacity and more efficient oxygen delivery systems. Their hearts and circulatory systems are literally built different to handle thin air. Some Native American populations also have genetic variants affecting how they process and store energy adaptations that helped ancestors survive in environments with unpredictable food supplies. These thrifty genes helped survival during feast or famine conditions. And here's something amazing. Many indigenous populations from the Americas have incredibly efficient immune responses to certain types of pathogens, though this unfortunately didn't protect them from novel diseases brought by colonizers. Pacific Islander Bajau ancestry. These are some of the most impressive navigators and ocean-adapted peoples in human history. Pacific Islanders have genetic variants that affect body composition, including how muscle and fat are distributed. These adaptations were advantageous for long ocean voyages, having a body composition that provides both strength for paddling and insulation for temperature regulation in the water. Some research suggests more efficient energy storage, which was crucial for surviving long voyages between islands. There's also evidence of diving adaptations in some populations. The Bajau people of Southeast Asia, who are traditional sea nomads, have larger spleens and specific genetic variants that help them hold their breath for incredible lengths of time. Some can dive for up to 13 minutes. This involves genes that affect spleen size and possibly oxygen conservation. Polynesians successfully settled thousands of miles of ocean, which required incredible navigation skills and bodies adapted for ocean life. We're talking about people who crossed vast expanses of the Pacific Ocean in canoes. Some research also suggests genetic variants that affect vitamin D metabolism, which makes sense for populations living in extremely sunny, ocean-based environments where vitamin D production needs to be carefully regulated. And finally, multiracial ancestry. This is where things get really interesting from an evolutionary perspective. There's a concept called hybrid vigor, or heterosis. Basically, having genetic diversity from multiple ancestral populations can provide advantages through increased genetic variation. Your immune system, for example, might have a broader range of HLA genes, the genes that help identify pathogens, which means better ability to recognize and fight diverse threats. People with mixed ancestry often have genetic variants from multiple populations, which can mean they potentially get the benefits from different adaptations. You might have lactose tolerance from European ancestry and melanin protection from African ancestry. It's like having tools from different evolutionary toolkits. There's also research suggesting that genetic diversity can provide protection against certain genetic diseases. Many genetic conditions are recessive, meaning you need 2 copies of the variant to get the disease. Having parents from different ancestral backgrounds reduces the chance of inheriting 2 copies of the same harmful recessive gene. Your immune system might be more adaptable with diverse genetic input, essentially having a wider range of defenses against different types of infections and diseases. And from a purely evolutionary standpoint, populations with more genetic diversity have more raw material for natural selection to work with, which means better long-term adaptability to changing environments and new challenges. So there you have it. Your genetic ancestry isn't just about where you're from. It's a story of survival, adaptation, and the incredible ways human bodies evolved to thrive in every corner of this planet. Like the video if you enjoyed the info, comment if it resonates with you, subscribe for more interesting facts, and become a genius.